My son has got a ton of Lego, and honestly, I mean, they're really, really cool looking sets. These sets go way beyond what they had when I was a kid. And I used to love building Lego too. And so my son's built all of this stuff. He's really proud of it and he wants to display it. The challenge is it's taking up all of the space in his room. So if you've got kids at home with Lego or maybe collectibles of other kinds, then you probably know what I'm talking about. Now, in this video, you see in my son's room that he actually already has a shelf on the wall. And I built that shelf probably a couple of years ago, thinking that that's going to be more than enough. And man, was I ever wrong. So in today's video, we're going to be building an exact replica of that shelf, but we're going to be building it in reverse because it's going to be installed in the opposite corner of his room. Now, this project is so easy to build that this is actually something you can build with your kids. What do you think, buddy? You excited to build this project?
Definitely.
Are you excited to have your Legos actually up on a shelf instead of scattered all over the place?
Yes.
That's awesome. And you can use this shelf for so many other things just outside of Lego, right? So it's going to be a really cool design. We're going to have some fun with this, right?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Let's get into it. Now, for this project, I'm going to be using some rough cherry that we're going to mill down. This is some stuff that I've had sitting in my lean-to for a while. If you've seen some of my other videos, it's the one wood I have an absolute ton of. But you can vary the wood if you want. Now, these boards that I've got are about 10 feet long, which is going to be a little bit too long for the sled to mill them down because that sled's at 4 feet. So what we're going to do is on our miter saw, first going to cut down each of these pieces to 4 foot in length. So that way we can start our milling. Now, this wood has some cupping in it, as you hopefully can see. So because of that, we've got to mill it down. Now, most of this stuff is 3/4 of an inch or 1 inch thick. So likely by the time we take this cupping out, just based on using this material in the past, you can get it flat and maintain about a 5/8 of an inch thickness. So that's what we're going to aim for. So to flatten this down, we're going to use our planing sled. We're going to run it through our board planer, and we're going to use our glue gun, of course, to glue it down. The goal is we're going to get one flat side. Milling lumber is a lot of work. So I got, as you can see, like this grain is beautiful. So got these planed down flat on the one side. As you can see, the back side is still rough. So now we're going to flip them over, run them through the planer again until we're completely flat. Okay, so finally we're done the milling process of this wood. That's pretty tough, eh? It takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And plus I had to empty the dust bag because it started shooting sawdust everywhere. Milling is one of those things that some people love it, some people hate it, but we have to do it if we want to be able to build a project. So I look at it, I'm not a huge fan, but it is what it is. It's just part of doing it. The fun comes after the milling. And one of the things I love about it is looking at a piece like this. There's a piece of that rough cherry that was fed through, and like look at that grain. What do you think of that grain?
That grain I wouldn't have any other way. Like that is pure perfection.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful wood grain, and it's amazing how this stuff comes out. So now that we've got our boards flat, now we're going to be pulling out our joining jig. Now I don't have a joint here, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be jointing and getting straight edges on this board using the table saw. So this board's 10 inches wide, and you set 10 inches between the saw blade and the fence. And then anything that's hanging over the edge of that 10 inches essentially gets cut off, and that's where we get our straight edge. So if you like this jig, I'll put a link to it up top, as well as to another video that I've done that's got a whole bunch of different jigs that I use. You ready?
Yep. Let's get into it.
Okay, so we've got our pieces ripped down to width. We're going to cut 2 pieces out of this, 2 pieces out of this, each of those pieces being 23 inches in length. Once we do that, then we're going to take them, laminate them together, then we'll trim them to width, at 9 inches. All right, so now that we've got our boards ripped down the length, next thing we're going to do is we're going to be putting some dowel pins in between. Now, these are only 5/8 of an inch thick. So center of 5/8 is 5/16. We're going to use a doweling jig for this. Now, this doweling jig, the downfall of this JSM one is it only goes center based on 1/8 of an inch increments. So it doesn't do 5/16. So I'm going to center this one at 1/4 inch. It's a little bit off center, but it still works. And we're going to put 3 dowels in. Now, just so you see how this is done, we're going to take these pieces and we're going to stand them up like this. I'm going to take some spring clamps here and we're going to put them there. And then we're going to put them there to hold this together. Now what we need to do is we need to make some marks on both sides for the dowel. So we're going to go 2 inches in over here. We're going to go 2 inches in also over here. And then on the next one, we're going to go roughly center, which is going to be 11.5 inches. So we're just going to take a straight edge here, draw 11 inches across. Now we've got to drill this out. So we're using a 1/4 inch bit with a stop collar. We're going to use our jig. And because this is the front and this is the top and this is the top, we're going to take this. We're going to do it on this side. Then we're going to do it on this side, flipped over. You ready?
Yep.
Nice. Okay, you center it. Very good.
You know, I like being able to help out. Okay, what, you try?
Yep. All right, so now we've got our dowel holes drilled on both sides. So the next thing we're going to do is get out some clamps. We're going to laminate these pieces together. Now I don't have a ton of clamps, so we're going to have to do these bit by bit. We are not going to show you all of it, but we're going to show you how we do this. Let's get to it. Okay, so while all of these pieces are drying, or well, the rest of them are drying anyways, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut the strips that we're going to need to mount this on the wall. Now I've gone ahead, I've taken 2 more pieces of cherry here, and I've cut these down to length at 32 inches. Now the final length is going to be 30 inches by about 3/4 of an inch thick. Again, maybe down to 5/8 of an inch. We'll see how it goes. But because of the width of these, I'm not going to worry about putting them on the planer sled. We're just going to run them through as is, then get them ripped down. And because there's not much movement in these, ripping them down is for the most part going to take everything out. And these are just mounts anyway. So we're going to go ahead and get these cut down. We're going to do 2 of these at 1.5 inches width. And then we're going to do some other ones where we've got one at 3 inches and one at 3 5/8 of an inch, if 5/8 is our thickness, of course. And that is going to be the inside corner mount for this shelf. So let's get these ones done. Okay, so now that we've got these cut, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to rip 2 of these pieces down to 1.5 inch width, which is going to be the final width for 2 of the supports. Once we do that, then we're going to rip another piece at 3 inches and another piece at 3 5/8 of an inch, because 5/8 of an inch did end up being our thickness. So we're going to go ahead and get all of those ripped down. Okay, so now that we've got all our pieces cut, we've got to set our blade height, and I'm going to use my trusty depth gauge for that. I love this thing, but if you don't have this, you can simply have maybe a thickness block or something like that. And we're going to set the depth of this, the tip of the saw teeth here, or the blade teeth, to 5/16 of an inch, which is half of the overall thickness of our board here, because we've got to do a few dados, and we're just going to use a regular blade for this, just to show that you do not need a dado stack or anything. So we're going to drop this down, and we're going to put this over top, and then we're going to lift it up just until it touches, which is right there. So I don't know if you heard that, but it's right on top, which is what we want. So now we're at a 5/16 of an inch depth. So now we're going to mark our measurements on our longer boards, and then we're going to get some dados done. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mark our dados. So this is 30 inches long. We need 18 inches in between, which means we're going to measure in 6 inches from here and 6 inches from here. So we're going to go ahead and put a mark on either side. Now, we know we need it 5/8 of an inch thick. So from that 6-inch line, you're going to measure 5/8. In my case, just because I'm left-handed, I have to go from 6 down to 5 3/8. That gives me my 5/8 of an inch. So I'm going to do that there. And I'm going to do the exact same thing here. Once I've done that, then I'm going to mark these. So I'm going to put a line there, and a line there. We're going to do the same thing down here. I'm just using a combination square. You can use a rafter square, whatever you want for this. And we're going to put a mark there. Now, because this is going to be facing down, we need to transfer our marks to this side as well as to this side when we flip it over. For both of the 1.5 inch pieces that you've got, you're also going to do this to the other pieces. So I'm going to go ahead, get that done now, and then we're going to get these dados cut out. Now, it's entirely up to you how you choose to do these dados. I used my combination blade on the table saw just because I didn't feel like setting up a dado stack to do these 5/8 channels, given that it's only on 4 pieces. When you do that, you may get some grooves in those dados, and so you may need to just take a chisel and just making sure it's really sharp and just going into that channel and kind of squaring everything off. I don't know about you, but I actually really enjoy taking a super sharp chisel and just flattening the bottom of a joint like that. It's pretty satisfying. So entirely up to you as to what you want to do and how you do it, but that's just what I went with. So now we've got to go check on our boards and see how our glue ups are doing. Okay, so before we get to go checking on our glued up boards, one thing that we have to do is we have to assemble the corner bracket. So this is the 3 5/8 of an inch piece. This is a 3-inch. This is 5/8 extra because it's the thickness of this board. So we're going to be essentially gluing them like that, and our shelves are going to be sliding into these dados. So I'm going to go ahead and get these glued up, and all we're going to do is we're not going to worry about any dowels or anything, because these parts are going to be screwed to a wall. So it's going to be screwed on this side, and it's going to be screwed on this side. So we're not going to have to worry about strength, but in order to hold it in place, we're going to put some glue in there, and then we're going to shoot some brad nails in. We're just going to use 1 1/4 inch because it's really just to hold it in place while the glue dries. All right, so we've got our boards out. They are all dried up. They're looking pretty good. We're going to hit them with some sandpaper to kind of just get everything evened out, make sure it's nice and smooth. And then once we do that, the next thing that we will need to do is join this to this as well. So we're also going to be doing that. We're going to be putting dowels in it as well. So this is going to be incredibly strong once it's done. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our pieces that we finished the lamination on, and we're going to rip them all down to a 9-inch width on here. Once we've done that, we're going to have a look at them, make sure that they're in good shape, and then we're going to go ahead and get them joined together. All right, so now we're going to do very similar, or actually the exact same thing as what we did when we joined these, is we need to join this piece to this piece right around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to find our best sides to do that. We're going to go ahead and get some dowels all done up. Now, again, because this is only 5/8, we're going to use 1/4-inch dowels, but that's okay because it's going to be plenty strong the way it is designed. Now what I have done is I've drawn a line in between each of these dados. I've done it on this piece as well, and I've done it in the center of these pieces. This is 3-inch by 3-inch on the inside, so 1.5 inch in. So we're going to drill a hole, a pilot hole, just like this, and we're going to have screws just like this. These are 1.25-inch screws going through the back side of this dado. They're going to be completely flush and recessed here, and they're going to be going directly into the center of that shelf once it gets put into the dado slot. In addition to that, we're also going to be gluing it in here. All right, so I've got one panel that's dry so far. So once it's dry, take it out of your clamps and go ahead and get it all sanded down. Again, I took it down to a 60 grit. I worked it all the way up to 120, and I think that I'm good. If you got any gaps in your laminations, who cares? Nice, easy trick for you is take some glue, put it into the joint, put on some maybe 100 grit sandpaper, some stuff that you're not going to use for anything else. Put it on your sander and put that right on top of that glue seam. And what it's going to do is it's going to sand the wood, and the sawdust is going to get stuck in the glue, and therefore it's actually going to act like a filler. All right, so now that we've got our pieces all ready to go, our shelves, now we're going to set this thing up. Now this shelf is designed to be opposites. You can flip it around. It's entirely up to you. But essentially, the top shelf will be longer this way. The bottom shelf will be longer that way, or vice versa. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to do the long side over here. So what we need to do is in our dados, we need to take this one and put it here. We're going to put this one up here. And we're going to put some glue in here, and then we're going to do the screws in the back. So when you do these, do them one at a time, simply going like this. Okay, and that's how we're going to be setting it in. All right, so we have got the drying and everything all done, and we've just got to put a finish on it. But that's the idea of what the shelf looks like. I know it may look a little bit odd to some of you, but this is actually the design that my wife had wanted, and so that's what was done, where it's kind of offset evenly on either side. So we're going to go ahead and put some Varathane on this, and then we're ready to use it. And there we have it. It is all done. It's been finished with a water-based Varathane. Just a single coat because it's nothing more than a storage shelf. All right, so I'm going to give you just a quick once-over about this shelf. So we've got to mount this. Now, how we're going to be mounting this is over here in the corner. That's where we're going to be screwing it into studs that are right in the corner of the room. On this one here, it's not going to hit studs. So we're going to be putting drywall plugs here, here, and here. And I've already pre-drilled the holes for this. Now, I didn't do anything else that was super fancy to this. I just did nice, smooth 5/8 of an inch boards and sanded it and finished it. That was it. And the reason is because it's to match the other shelf. But think of what you could do on a shelf like this, where you could put chamfers on the edges here. You could use a round over bit and put round over edges. These ones are just sanded over. Either one works. And you can change up the style of all these things. There's so many things that you can do with this shelf, but surprisingly, this shelf will actually hold quite a bit of things on it. I don't know about how much weight, because I haven't really tested that, but the one that's currently up there is a little bit bigger than this, and the thing is covered in Lego sets, and it's never even budged. So that might give you an idea of weight. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. It really is a fun build, and you can certainly build it with your kids if you want. Now, some of the tools are bigger, so they may not be able to use everything. Now, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you already are, awesome. Thank you so much. In addition to that, share this video with anybody that you think might be able to benefit from a project like this. You know, maybe needing some more storage space to store all the different collectible stuff.
Yep.
All right?
So thanks for watching and happy cutting.